Hey there, and welcome to painting Atalanta, the murderous sniperess for Aleph. I'm just going to be cracking on with the first round of final tier highlighting, if you like. And to begin with, this requires some toning, so just going to introduce yellow ink into the hair and tone back other areas too. Okay then, hair has been blocked in yellow and skirts and bodice etc. They've had a very thin pale skin wash. That's it, got there in the end. Put over them because I wanted the skirts to have a bit more warmth to them to help separate them out from the blue-grey of the other part of the bodice. And so this is my knockback. My preference at these stages is always to knock back before highlighting again, because sometimes you run the risk of flattening out the colour, even though the highlight's meant to add depth. And so knocking back and drawing forward and knocking back and drawing forward, and this way you also have a lot more control over what you're doing because you get to assess the different skins. So all of the white, not just the skirts and the bodice, but the collar and all the plates on the legs as well. And this has helped separate everything out that extra bit further and create clarity in the miniature. Not going to do any more knocking back, so the next step is going to be first tier highlighting, and I'm going to start with using a cold grey on the plates, and that'll get worked up towards a white, but greys first. Okay then, this is the grey highlights on, and this is just using cold grey. This is where thinning your paint really does matter, because that's what keeps these kind of not too in your face highlights going around. I've highlighted everything that was black, so that's all of the plates including a face mask, the straps around her skirt there, plates around the feet, legs, sniper rifle, and this is the, well, almost final highlight. As we head more into the highlighting stages. So next up, I'm going to introduce all the white highlights. So we'll be doing spot highlighting on all of the black plates and introducing some quite hard white highlights into the white areas of the skirts and the white panelling. Also introduce blue-grey mixed with white highlights and reapply those onto the blue-grey areas. There's the white spot highlights on then, as well as quite a lot of very thin white built up and then finally highlighted on the skirt, bodice and collar. Haven't dealt with the blue-greys yet, but we'll do that next. So trying to maintain definition whilst also getting to the right colour ranges. And then after this need to deal with the backpack and the hair. Gonna have to deal with the face at some point as well. Probably gonna leave the face till last at this instance because don't know, struggling with faces at the moment, so putting off having to do them. And also, sort of probably the final process of today's will be reapplying the fluoro pink, with the point being that if you reapply it after you've highlighted everything, so you're kind of applying, putting light in, doing the lighting effect, applying highlights over the top, and then kind of reapplying the lighting effect effectively. You might even thin the fluoro paint down a little bit. I don't really want it to swamp anything, but what I do want it to do is to give the sense of overflowing light. We go then, final highlights run through the hair and done to the bag. You could, if you wanted to, do all these little sort of panelly bits differently, but decided that it's impersonating leather at the very least, and so doesn't require that being done. The hair's had a mixture of golden brown and white run through it, and the bag's just been highlighted with mahogany and then mahogany mixed with white, and I just run a very thin black ink over the braces which are hanging down, just to create that little bit of definition around them. So finally, the last round of lighting, I'm going to reapply the fluoro pink, but this time going to water it down, so it's going to be 1 part fluoro pink, 1 part water. Here's the final layer of fluoro paint on then, and it also worked into her face a little bit more, mostly just to bring colour into the opposite side and make her a little bit paler and uninteresting. But just trying to show how the fluoro works then. So normally this would be done, right? But, well, I'm getting worse and worse for this really, but no, it's not done. Next time, drastic measures, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a dark shadow wash kind of diagonally underneath one side. If you watch the last brawler video, or the early ones when I'm dealing with the sort of blue and pink highlights, using a similar approach to that. So I'm going to have a dark underside, and then I'm going to have a really light, bright highlight coming down on the other side. The aim of this is actually to, again, push more for an illustration kind of look rather than a miniature-y kind of look, in terms of the colour interactions and the way colour's used. So I hope this has been some interest and use to you, and that any painting you're doing is coming off really well, and that maybe you're even looking at these and being like, oh yes, I can do that. Do remember, you don't have to use fluoros for this. You can use normal paint, inks or what have you. Thin your paint very thin though, and inks. I would water inks down a bit as well. Thinning your paints is really useful for highlights and everything as well, so do remember that. Thank you for watching, have a good one and take care. Bye bye.